It's just after lunch on board Qantas Flight 72 from Singapore to Perth.
Sir, would you like a drink?
Qantas flight attendant Fuzzy Maeva is busy attending to passengers in the cabin.
Orange juice for you, madam?
If I can make your flight a lot easier, I'm your man. And I thought it was going to be another great day.
Up in the cockpit,
How's everything doing?
Very good.
Captain Kevin Sullivan has just climbed back into his seat after a rest break, when suddenly the plane's autopilot disconnects.
Autopilot 1 appears to have disconnected.
And then we started getting stall warnings.
Stall.
And then we started getting overspeed warnings.
Stall.
And then it happens.
Stall.
The plane, it started going down, pitching down, violently down.
Tonight, for the first time, the previously untold story of Qantas's worst ever accident.
Bang, my head went through the cabin ceiling.
How a plane went psycho, injuring 100 passengers and crew.
You died 6 or 7 times on the operating table. I'm
lucky to be here alive.
And destroying once happy lives.
It got to the point where I tried to take my own life.
The hero pilot who fought against his own plane to save his passengers and crew.
The automation is there to keep you safe. It's actually trying to kill us.
And how the lessons of Qantas Flight 72 have gone unheeded.
All of us are deeply sorry for the loss of life.
With 2 planes crashing within 6 months of each other, killing all 346 people on board.
When you see what's happening with the 737 MAX accidents, they're the same. They were in no man's land. They didn't know what was happening. And their instinctive reaction to pull back and stop the ground from hitting them was not enough to save the day.
Kevin Sullivan doesn't fly anymore. What happened that day in the skies over the Indian Ocean has affected him profoundly.
I could have hidden it, but I think it's more courageous to be honest with yourself and honest to say, it's affected me. I don't shirk my responsibility as a commercial pilot and a captain. I reached the point where it was best that I stop.
Growing up in California, Kevin always dreamed of being a pilot. And by his early 20s, he was a Top Gun fighter pilot in the US Navy.
As a F-14 pilot in the Cold War, I flew off aircraft carriers. The landing area moves. At night, you can't see the landing area until you're actually on it. We were essentially at war. We trained and flew to that level of extreme readiness.
Then came an opportunity to fly Mirage jets as part of an exchange program with the Royal Australian Air Force.
It's a speed machine. At low level, I've been very fast. Over 600 knots, 1,200 kilometers an hour.
The young American loved Australia and those jets so much, he ended up settling here.
After you, Kevin.
Thank you. How did you organize this?
What do you think?
Yeah, it's pretty special.
The Mirage 3, there she is.
We called it the French Lady, or the Aussies did, and I do too.
Well, you can't stand on the seat. You need a degree just to get in.
35 years along life's runway, and Kevin Sullivan's love for his French lady hasn't dimmed.
It's just like getting into a Formula One car. You don't have much room. It becomes part of you.
Not a bad place to hone your skills.
There's no automation on this thing.
You need to know how to fly this one by hand, I tell you.
Kevin eventually moved on to a job with Qantas, flying its biggest passenger jets.
You do it every year, but it never.
How's everything doing?
Smooth sailing.
By October 2008, he's had decades of experience as a commercial pilot, but it's his time as a Top Gun that will prove crucial.
We were coming up to the northwest coast of Australia. We could see it out the windscreen, and the Indian Ocean was calm and blue.
On this clear blue day at the controls of a Qantas Airbus, Captain Kevin Sullivan is about to be tested in the most dramatic way possible.
Autopilot 1 appears to have disconnected.
When was the first indication of trouble?
The autopilot disconnected, and then we started getting stall warnings. It sounds like stall. Means the plane will stop flying. It will start to go down. And then we started getting overspeed warnings.
Stall warning and overspeed at the same time.
It's impossible.
Doesn't make sense to me, because overspeed is you're at your maximum limit, and stall, it means you're at your minimum speed limit.
What the hell? Get Pete back in here.
First officer to the flight deck, please.
And then the plane started moving. And initially it was a dip. And then it started going down, pitching down aggressively and violently down. It generated enough force that we had to brace ourselves against the instrument glare shield to stop from basically hitting the ceiling, even with our seatbelts secured. I was accelerating down towards the Indian Ocean, and certainly my windscreens were filled with the Indian Ocean.
QF-72 is in a death dive and refusing to let Kevin take control.
This is my broad understanding. So the plane's flying along. The sensors are giving some sort of information to the computer system that the plane is pointed upwards, so it tries to overcorrect and then obviously points you back down. Is that a fair summary?
Yes, in a way. It's saying, sorry, Kev, I'm protecting you, so I'm not going to let you stop me. Like the HAL 9000, in 2001 Space Odyssey, where Dave asks him to open the pod bay doors, and Hal says, I'm sorry, Dave, I can't let you do that. I'm pulling back on the stick, and I'm saying, hey, Hal, stop moving the nose. And it's like, I'm sorry, Kev, I can't let you do that.
But no way is this proud ex-fighter pilot going to let a rogue computer beat him.
I was in a near-death position, and I was going to fight to the death to make sure that didn't happen.
Qantas Flight 72 from Singapore is cruising comfortably at 37,000 feet.
Have a glass of white wine, please.
Glass of white wine.
In just over 2 hours, the Airbus A330 will land in Perth. It's been a routine flight. Some of the passengers on board are off-duty Qantas staff returning from holidays. Among them, Bruce Southcott, a flight services manager travelling with his wife, Caroline.
The aircraft was flying flat and still, and I watched the glass of wine sit there, just out of ripple.
But up in the cockpit, the plane's flight control system is going haywire. The aircraft's computers are telling Captain Kevin Sullivan his plane is about to stall. And then, suddenly the plane is hurtling down towards the Indian Ocean.
There wasn't really any first sign, it just happened. Like the hand of God had just pushed the aircraft down. There was no, whoa, let's go as a roller coaster. It was just like slam.
Bruce is wearing his seatbelt, but Caroline is just coming back from the toilet.
I remember getting hit on the head with the plane. And I just went bang, and before I could think, bang again, and then the third bang, my head went through the cabin ceiling. After the third time that it hit me on the head, I pretty much was knocked out.
An off-duty Qantas pilot, Peter Casey, and his wife, Diana, a Qantas customer service manager, have left their seats to say hello to flight attendant Fuzzy Maeva.
Fuzzy, God love him, was down there checking out the catering as he does. The three of us chatting away.
I pasted my meal in the oven. I was focused on the timer, you see, because I was hungry. And then when I saw the exact time on it was 13 seconds. And that's when I saw the corner of my eye. Someone had just shot up. And I just sort of looked down and like the plane was like disappearing from my feet.
I heard a slight change in the airflow of the aeroplane, and I thought, oh, this is interesting. And the next thing you know, whomp, up we went.
I must have hit something, I must have hit the ceiling because I was knocked out.
The three of us up in the ceiling, probably only for seconds, but it seemed like an eternity.
The Casey's daughters, 17-year-old Becky and 18-year-old Elise, are at the front of the cabin.
The first nosedive, my sister, she grabbed on to the bottom of her chair and she looked up at me as I was on the top of the aeroplane.
You were actually pinned to the ceiling.
Yeah.
Feel like forever?
It did. Felt like a few minutes.
Back in the cockpit, Kevin Sullivan is desperately trying to take back control of his plane.
We're basically fighting for our lives at this stage.
They had to very quickly discover what part of the airplane was trying to kill them and how to stop it from doing so.
If there's any other pilot who understands exactly what Captain Sullivan is facing, it's the other Sully. Captain Chesley Sullenberger lost both his engines in a bird strike and had to land his plane in New York's Hudson River.
Captain, I'd like your insight if I could. I'm trying to tap into, I guess, the anguish of that moment, what it must have been like for the pilot.
Well, at first it would have been confusing, surprising, a huge startle factor. And then one would immediately begin to act to regain control of the airplane.
At Aspen Dental.
Kevin Sullivan's next move is completely counterintuitive. Instead of pulling back on the control stick, he lets it go.
I have a choice to make. Do I hold on to it or do I release it? And my military training for out of control is to release, neutralize controls.
It works. The plane is no longer falling from the sky, but now passengers are being smashed back down to the floor.
We heard an almighty crash coming from the cabin, and that was the people's bodies. That was the galleys coming apart. And it sounds like a 40-foot shipping container full of cutlery and glass that is sent down a ramp into a brick wall.
I just came crashing down. My sister, she was eating and her fork went in my arm. Got a bit stuck when I came down. It's the little things that you remember.
When I came back down, I hit the armrest.
Yeah.
And then I realised that my bones were clicking in my back, and I realised that there was something terribly wrong, very wrong. I couldn't move off the floor. The staff were asking me to go back to my chair, and I couldn't get up at all. I couldn't move my legs at all.
Your legs weren't working?
Nope. My ankle was broken, so my ankle was just sort of hanging. Eventually, another passenger came and picked me up and put me in my chair.
Hit the galley bench. That's what woke me up. All I could hear was the crushing sounds. My knees going, I don't know what the heck is going on. All I see is blood rushing out of Peter's head. And Diana, she's unconscious. And then I see the two girls I was looking after. Oh man, one of them who was sat on the aisle seat, she stuck her hand out to me and she was just crying. And to me, that's like my own daughter. You know, anybody's, I mean, I just couldn't do anything. And I just felt so helpless because I couldn't move.
Back in the cockpit, Kevin Sullivan has pulled the plane out of its death dive.
What the hell was that?
But he's still fighting for control.
It's the primary flight computer.
Now we're in this revolver of faulting systems.
In effect, this is a total system collapse.
The plane is starting to melt down.
Automatic brake's not working. Spoiler's not working.
Let's get us back up to 37,000 feet.
I'm still pretty coherent. Yes, my cage is a little bit rattled because we don't know what's happening.
And just 2 minutes later,
Don't you do it.
it happens again.
I'm basically a passenger. I'm an observer now. The automation that's there is supposed to be keeping me safe, not putting me into harm's way. And I got very angry.
I thought it was the end.
Really? It was so violent, you thought you were going to die?
I think being so young as well, not having experienced life outside of high school yet, you don't really know what to expect in the big world, and honestly, I just thought that was it.
All I could hear was the sounds of we were going to die, but you just hope to God that it happens quick and
Death?
yes, and not to, I don't want to feel any pain. I was frozen like a block of ice, just waiting for it to happen.
Once again, Kevin Sullivan's military training saves his plane.
We have lost auto pitch trim.
But he has no idea if or when it will happen again.
Another failure in Prim 3. Reset?
No, don't.
Everyone responds to trauma differently. Kevin Sullivan cracks a joke. He picks a line from another of his favourite movies, Flying High.
Looks like I picked a bad day to quit sniffing glue.
First Officer Peter Lipset had been on a break when the plane went into its dive. He's injured, but he makes it back to the cockpit.
It's a shit fight out there. I think I've just broken my nose.
Congratulations. Strap in, we're in trouble.
I made the assessment that we're in trouble, and I've never used those terms in any situation prior to that in my extreme flying career.
Mayday, Qantas 72, Qantas 72. Flight control computer malfunctions and we have significant injuries on board.
Kevin Sullivan is in the fight of his life. The Qantas captain has twice managed to stop his out-of-control plane from plunging into the Indian Ocean.
Tracking direct to Learmonth.
He needs to get his 315 passengers and crew down onto the ground fast before it happens again. He heads for the nearest airport, the RAAF base at Learmonth on Western Australia's northwest coast.
I couldn't risk exposing myself and the passengers to an out-of-control airplane any longer than I had to. And Learmonth was just off our left wing, and that's where we decided to go.
In the cabin behind him, more than 100 passengers are injured.
What's happening?
Many have been knocked unconscious, others have broken bones and bleeding wounds.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the flight deck. All passengers to fasten seatbelts immediately.
Caroline Southcott is in absolute agony. Her back is broken, and a single piece of skin is keeping her foot attached to her leg. But she has no choice. She has to sit in her seat.
I was really worried my bones were going to go through my spinal cord, so I had to hold myself up on the armrests for, I think it must have been 45, 50 minutes.
It would have been easy because she said she could physically feel and hear her spine just grating like that against each other.
Yeah, it was a very funny noise. Prior to that, I've never had pain, bad pain. So it was a matter of life and death. It was a matter of suck it up, princess. You've got to do something here.
Yeah, exactly.
Caroline now notices that her nearly severed left foot is facing backwards.
During all this pain, she looked down at the ankle and said, "That's not right, I'm not happy with that." She pulled the ankle forward, rotated it, and clicked it back into place.
Reset it. I think there was no choice. It was fight or die.
In the rear galley, Peter and Diana are all badly injured. Fuzzy is desperate to get to the two unaccompanied children he is looking after, but his legs won't work.
I couldn't even move. I wanted to. I tried so much to reach out, and I knew I could not move.
Peter is bleeding profusely from a head wound. Diana has suffered a badly injured back and shoulder, but somehow she finds the strength to help the people around her.
I tell you what, Diana, man, she was incredible. She reminded me of the Hulk. Adrenaline came out of her, and like she could lift anything, and she made it happen. And I can hear Diana say, "Okay, Fuzzy, you're next."
Come on, nearly there.
Man.
There we go. Just gotta put your belt on.
She was incredible. I'm telling you right now, man, that lady deserves